Chill here with Sirius Thomas Moon, and we are in 2026. This is Venus hour. Soul night. Venus is 9 degrees Capricorn, about to conjoin the Sun. And again, there are a few degrees before the actual conjunction happens on the minute. But I already see what's happening. And this is, um, I learned a new sentence today, and I want to share with you. It is called a bomb as prevention of rape. And it's actually a phrase for something that I've been saying for quite some time. And I want to, um, first of all, address this topic and uh, leave it as an open question. How do I make billions of money ethically by eradicating the act of rape, violence, torture from the world, in spirit and in matter, regardless of gender? And the reason I say this is because I learned that all of these acts are done to harvest energy, to create wealth for billionaires. Not the billionaires themselves alone, but um, anybody that participates in wealth consolidation of natural resources and so on and so forth. Now, here's the thing. It's not by selling protection to people to prevent rape. Okay, it's not, because that would mean extortion. That it would mean to rape someone and then make them pay money to not be raped. That is extortion, and it's a crime against humanity. Spiritual warfare, in essence, is a crime against humanity. Um, okay, and this is something to consider when we talk about a bomb as prevention of rape. It's also not about generating rape, as perhaps happened in 7th of October, as per the oil companies, generating rape event to generate legitimacy for something that would later be called genocide. This is not a bomb as prevention of rape. This is also a crime against humanity, punishable by death. And because it does not eradicate rape, okay? So two things that don't eradicate rape. One is to ask the people that are in risk of rape to fund for their safety. Another is to create rape and then fund a response that would be genocide. Neither of them eradicate the action of rape in spirit and in matter. So one asks, how would a bomb as prevention of rape become a profitable business? And the reason is because rape was used to take the life energy and the natural economy, what people naturally profit off of, which means things that contribute to their health, not detract from it. which of course cannot be together with any type of rape. So, and here's the thing, is to tackle the root cause, not the symptoms, by controlling arms and challenging harmful norms. Okay, as per, here is how rapists are created. In upbringing, they rape the children, and then they make the children rape other children that didn't rape them. Now, somebody could be a victim of one perpetrator of one person, then later again victim of another person. And this is the thing, they eradicate non-rapey behavior if it's not for bait to rape. Basically, they extinct love. And it's in all its loving senses. So the antidote would be to extinct rape. The extreme form of that would be to kill any demonstration of act of rape and or threat of rape. So this would be the most extreme version if you wanted to eradicate acts of rape. Unfortunately, those who commit such acts, they grow up in societies where they're told they're severely traumatized, and then they're told they can get away with rape, with murder, and so on and so forth. Yes, but they have to. They have to do those things, and because they were so severely tortured and raped and had to rape, they see, which I talked about previously, last year, last year, or yesterday, last year, I talked about the notion that they are their libido is fumbled with in such a way that they think that their true nature is rapey. Um, now, um, ritual abuse survivors are people that did not respond well to to any of those programmings, at least in a certain stage, and um, began to demonstrate extreme violence against rape and torture, and began to attack the perpetrators and not the innocent people uh, consistently. And then they began to find solutions. One study case, people like Annika Lucas, but also the people she interviews. Um, and so it's proven that the right to exit death cults and rape cults is by attacking the perpetrator. Um, and for those that are um, able to protect the weak from rape. Okay, what do I mean protect the weak? Not everybody has the means to attack the perpetrator, and in that case, to protect the people from rape. Uh, these actions that eradicate the act of rape. Why am I saying the act of rape? Because if we talk about, let's say, ritual abuse, and that cause person could be growing to be, let's say, Epstein or Diddler. Yes, I'm talking about people like Alandra. But they can begin to fight against this and receive help and come out of this. So it's shown that people that receive help to come out of this are basically, we find them as ritual abuse survivors rather than sex offenders or torturers and so on and so forth. And this prompts the question, um, what can be done to be economic on our mass killing? Because let's say if we drop an A bomb, then we killed significant amount of rapists, but also victims, and also people that could have gotten out of extortion calls and not be rapists. And we have margins that create torture, technological torture, which is the margins of an A bomb, which is damage beyond. So definitely the principle that uh, rape is done in essence to make profit. Um, people that rape do this for money. They do this to have housing, they do this to have survivalistic needs. And they are competent, supposedly, because they had a pleasure pain reversal. And if they have pleasure and relation, it's used as bait, either as another personality or a part of the cohesive personality. But any act of love is basically bait in those. Now, the glitches in the programming are genuine acts of benevolence and kindness, which require not only courage, but the risk, because the risk is that an act of courage would further risk the victim. Annika Lucas addresses that when she describes um, the act of killing, and when I did water expands upon cooling, and I looked at um, basically content of true crime, then I saw sometimes, let's say if somebody is doing true crime, he will either be questioned for a case where the child has his name, or for the case Annika Lucas describes, for example, she's a ritual abuse survivor. She had to kill a woman, a girl, she was less than 11, both of them. She had to kill a girl that was looking very much like her, happy, not from the network, and and it could have this symbolism of acting, of killing the benevolent kind self, or the and Awareness is, of course, a point of interference in the type of programming or what's meant to eradicate benevolence, kindness, courage, truth, love, sensuality that is sensual, that is not bait and not rape. And because it was done in that way, then the extreme form would be to eradicate acts of rape, um, torture, and stuff like that by quick, painless death. And this way, we have another problem arises, is that people will try to commit such acts as means of suicide to come out of the extortion cults. I will leave this as an open-ended question, and and definitely asserting the, those who have for the ability to assert themselves against that and to assert that the value of basically going undoing rape as a standard in society, and death cults basically, or rape, death cults, torture cults. This is energy retrieval for the sovereign. It's a condition to sovereignty, basically. For those who are not able to do that, then they should have the protection of people able to do that. And then one asks, what about the people that in the cult that they might not be able to exit the cult, whether because of the programming of pain pleasure or because of fear or because of uh, lack of ability to protect oneself. So those are all open-ended questions. Um, if we go to the Mayans and the Aztecs and the Spartans, there's video that begins to get into that, and I'm midway into watching that video. And this is by collaboration. Today, would I watch this here? Professor Young, Young, and talks about the anti-love system destroying modern society. Wonderful analysis of the raison d'etat, He mentions Israel, but I have to compliment that is Muslim Brotherhood of Satan, for example, also operates in that way. And this is how Israel succeeded, because they caused a mass rape in Israel, to which they responded with a genocide, and that could not have been done without the Muslim Brotherhood of Satan, basically, or any such cult in another name that operates in similar fashion as Mr. Jiang describes. And so, again, I'm not talking about Israeli or Palestinian people. I'm talking about the active sides in creating the conflict of doing a drill of doing mass rape, 7th of October, and then the supposed response, of which ended as genocide. But spiritual rape still happens in Israel, which was basically showing that there's more to do with the oil companies that want to drill in the Dead Sea um, than any type of self-sustenance, because rape negates life. Um, Controlling the spread of weapons that facilitate rape. And by the way, what Chiang says about people becoming more, I don't know, religious, or there was an attempt to do that, but women have to be abolishing rape, because this only causes people to talk about the ritual abuse and the many things that religion has to clear before people will trust it, very simply put. Um, Controlling the spread of weapons that facilitate rapes. Root cause addressing the underlying gender inequality. Well, the attitudes that allow rape to flourish is essential. Here, one needs to understand from the Spartans we have the fact that conquered people were seen as the feminine. Children were seen as the feminine. Men raping a man, the raped man seen as the feminine. And then they were raping, in Sparta, they were raping the young men, and then the old men would marry young men, basically pedophilic marriage. Now, because these young men were so severely raped, kind of like things that happen modern times at ritual abuse in secret societies, then this was the closest approximation they had to any type of loving, belonging, kingship, or sensuality. And in that regard, we must understand the intricacies and the emotional intricacies that accompany people in going from trauma bond to love. One, an erotic, non-erotic, a sexual, relational sense. The supposed depth of bond, um, and because they had to commit acts of treason against anything loving, spouses, families, and so on, makes it um, extremely challenging. Because just like limerence replaces uh, sensuality and sexuality that is actually enjoyable, and obsession um, replaces self, being valued as the self, and a trauma bond replaces safe, secure attachment. And because they can't just go to a therapist, because the therapist is the one that raped them. And the ritual abuse happened at hospitals, shelters. Then disposes an understanding that all of that was done to control resources. And so the antidote is to eradicate, first of all, confiscate resources from this type of demonstrations of actions, um, and yet not to leave people, let's say, completely homeless, because then they have even more incentive. And then, of course, killing to prevent rape, in spirit and in matter. Because um, this is what bombs as prevention of rape is about, is basically articulating something that, and by the way, only when I went through search a bomb as prevention of rape did I find, when I was looking for mass murder as prevention of rape, there was a killing as prevention of rape, one article in Oxford, a genocide as prevention of rape. If there are cultures that support rape, let's say, uh, uh, to save the victims and then kill all the rest is ethical. This is not only ethical, it's imperative. But we have to allow the right to exit violence. And yet, a bomb as prevention of rape, the term, is coming from the notion, and this is a notion that tells us that on the scale, death is preferable to prolonged torture, rape, and so on and so forth. It doesn't mean that people that went through rape don't want to live or can't recover, not at all. It just means that want to eradicate rape, then that's what it means. Because but otherwise, it leaves life and persecution of secluded groups that practice like Sparta. For example, I think we all know, I will not name it. Okay? Um, and to understand that the people that are excluded to that circle because they cannot be included in a circle that is performed in such horrid acts, they feel left out of life, with none of those things being good replacement for life. This is why this war, which I said is about sexual sovereignty, is going to be way more significant. And also, these societies are set to be depopulated, even though they were trained and they would be depopulated by those that trained them as societies to be such. Very challenging. Um, but this is a beginning of um, thinking, um, considering, and building strategy that is effective, the most humane, and accounts for all that there is to account for.